If you are enjoying this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share it with your friends and let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? Every like and subscribe helps the channel grow. It always starts with the road. Not a highway sign or a town name, just a stretch of blacktop bleeding into the horizon, like a scar that never heals. I've been hauling freight for nearly 2 decades now. Texas to Nevada, California to Arkansas, sometimes all the way up to the Canadian border. But this stretch, this cursed vein running east through the belly of the country, I've only ever seen it at night. Even if I start driving at noon, the sun always disappears by the time I reach mile marker 0. They don't show it on any map. Not the real ones anyway. You'll only find it after something goes wrong. A wrong turn, a missed ramp, a GPS glitch. 1 minute you're on I-40, coasting past Amarillo, and the next, darkness. No cell signal, no radio. Just you, your rig, and the open mouth of a 2-lane hell waiting to swallow you whole. That's how it was for me the first time. Back in 2014, I'd been running 36 hours straight with a busted AC unit and a delivery deadline that wouldn't wait for God himself. My eyes were sandpaper. My stomach was empty. I was somewhere between Oklahoma and Texas when the world just stopped making sense. One blink, I'm passing familiar signs. Lubbock this way, Wichita Falls that way. Next blink, I'm crawling along some nameless stretch of highway flanked by forests that looked like they hadn't seen daylight in a century. The trees were wrong, too tall, too still. They didn't sway, even when the wind picked up. And the moon, hell, the moon was the worst of it. It hung too low, glowing orange like a festering sore in the sky, and I swear it didn't follow the truck like it should have. It moved in the other direction like it was watching me instead. I tried the radio. Nothing but static. Even my engine sounded quieter, like it didn't want to disturb the silence outside. That was the first time I saw the thing on the road. It looked like a deer at first, limping out of the woods, slow and careful. But the closer I got, the more I realized how wrong it was. The legs bent backward like they were broken at the knees. Its head turned too far, neck twisting like a corkscrew. And its eyes... Jesus. Its eyes looked human. They were crying. Blood. I swerved and missed it by inches, tires screaming against the pavement. The trailer swung, nearly fishtailed. When I looked in the mirror, it was gone. Not ran off. Not limped away. Just gone. That was mile 1. By mile 2, I started hearing things. By mile 3, the forest opened up just enough to reveal something I never wanted to see again. A wreck. Not a normal one. No flashing lights, no hazard cones. Just 2 rigs jackknifed into each other like beasts mid-battle, twisted in a knot of steel and scorched rubber. One of them looked eerily like mine. Same make, same rusted grille, same dent on the left mirror. The other was burned to the frame, blackened down to bone. I pulled to the shoulder, unsure why. Maybe it was instinct, maybe guilt, maybe something else. I left the engine idling and stepped down into the darkness, flashlight trembling in my hand. The closer I got to the wreckage, the heavier the air felt. Not hot, not cold, just thick. Like the night had mass. There was a figure slumped in the driver's seat of the burned rig, not breathing or moving. I climbed the steps, held my breath, and aimed the light inside. He looked just like me. Same face. Same eyes. Except his mouth was hanging open in a silent scream. His skin peeled back in long curls like old wallpaper. Something had carved words into his chest with precision. "You kept driving." I staggered back, nearly fell. The cab door slammed shut on its own. When I ran back to my rig, my headlights were off. I never turned them off. And there was a girl, standing in the middle of the road, barefoot and bloody, hair hanging in a curtain over her face. I didn't stop. I hit the gas, right through her, or at least where she stood. There was no impact, no sound, just a sudden, choking cold in the cab and the feeling, no, the certainty, that someone was now riding with me. In the sleeper maybe, or the passenger seat, or crouched in the dark space under the dash. Mile 5. The trees returned, but they were wrong again. This time, they had faces, pressed into the bark, mouths frozen open mid-scream. Some of them looked familiar, old dispatchers, fellow drivers, my ex-wife, each one twisted in agony, as though caught mid-transformation from man to tree. One tree had my dog's collar nailed to it. My dog died 6 years ago. By mile 8, I stopped trusting the mirrors. Every glance revealed something new. Face in a hand, a glimpse of red hair vanishing into the sleeper. At one point, I saw my own reflection smiling back at me, even though I wasn't smiling at all. I ripped both mirrors off with a tire iron at the next stop. Didn't help. Now I just see them in the windows instead. It was around mile 13 when I found the diner. A glowing neon sign pierced the trees, like a lifeline. Dottie's Diner. 24 hours I pulled in desperate for warmth, food, or just human contact. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. Plastic menus. Tacky checkered floors. Old rock music playing low. But the people? They weren't right. No one blinked. No one moved. They just sat, hands folded, staring straight ahead like mannequins waiting for permission to breathe. Then the waitress walked. Over. She looked about 70, too much makeup, too little skin, and she said without a smile, "Your seat's waiting, Ray." I didn't ask how she knew my name. I sat. The coffee was black and bitter and thick, almost chunky. I didn't drink. And she brought me a plate of meat. I asked what it was. She said, "Whatever you left behind." I didn't eat, didn't pay, just ran. Back into the night, back to the rig. But as I pulled away, I glanced in the rear view and saw myself still sitting inside the diner, smiling, eating, drinking that thick black brew with hunger in my eyes. Mile 20, the ice, road split, no signs, no directions, just two identical paths veering left and right into deeper shadow. I flipped a coin, it landed on its edge, and then slowly tipped toward the left. So I went right, and I think that's when I really pissed her off. 3. Woman from before, the one I drove through, started following me. At first I'd catch glimpses in the trees, then on the shoulder, then for 3 miles straight, she ran beside the truck, barefoot, eyes fixed on me the whole time. She never blinked, never stumbled, just ran and bled. By mile 30, my log stopped working. The GPS, useless. The radio, whispers and crying. The only thing that worked was the odometer, and it was counting backward now. Not just miles, but years. 87, 1988, 1989, before I was born. Before my father was born. Still I drove. What else could I do? There's no exit, no shoulder wide enough to turn around, no phone call I can make. This isn't a route you can cancel. It's a sentence, and I'm serving mine. Somewhere past mile 35, I realized I hadn't blinked in hours. Couldn't. My eyes were open wide, dry and burning, but I didn't dare close them, not even for a second. Every time I blinked before, something changed. The road curved. A figure appeared. A sound started. So I stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the wheel, while the highway unwound like a serpent beneath me. That's when I heard the knocking. Not outside the truck. Inside. It started low, barely a tap, coming from the sleeper behind me, like someone lightly rapping their knuckles on the wall. Then it got louder, more urgent. Knock. 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 I shouted. I even pulled the curtain back once. Nothing, but as soon as I turned back to the road, there was a mirror where my windshield had been. It showed the inside of the cab, me sitting there confused, panicked, and behind me, her, the girl with the bloody feet. She was smiling now, just faintly, her face pale like rotted porcelain, lips split down the middle like torn rubber. Blood dripped steadily down her chin. Then the mirror shattered, and the glass sprayed across my lap. But the windshield was fine. At mile 42, I passed a sign that said, Thank you for returning. That's when I knew I'd been here before. Maybe not in this life. Maybe not in any way that makes sense. But the way the road pulsed beneath me, the way the stars blinked in unnatural rhythms above, the way my heart sank at that sign, it all told me one thing. This wasn't my first time, and maybe I'd never actually left. Around mile 45, the road got quiet. Too quiet. Even my tires didn't make noise. I opened the window to check if I was dreaming, but there was nothing. No wind, no engine hum, no sound at all. I screamed, just to see if I could still hear myself. I couldn't. I tried the horn. Silence. I started banging my fists on the steering wheel. Nothing. Then, out of nowhere, the cab filled with noise. A roaring, deafening scream like the air itself was being ripped in half. My eardrums felt like they'd burst. My vision blurred, and just like that, she was in the passenger seat. Smiling. Breathing. Dripping. "Don't stop now," she whispered. "You're almost where you belong." I tried to grab the door handle. Gone. Tried the brakes. Gone. Tried to move. Paralyzed. She leaned closer, blood soaking into the seat. "You always leave people behind." Ray, but I didn't forget, I never forgot. I woke up in the truck, parked on the shoulder, or I think I did. There was no daylight. The odometer read 00, and the highway ahead was pitch black. No reflectors, no lines, no sky. Just void. The girl was gone again. But I could smell her. Rust. And rot in the iron tang of guilt. I drove forward, and the road beneath me cracked with every mile. It didn't feel like asphalt anymore. It felt like bone. By mile 60, I saw the convoy. Hundreds of rigs, all lined up in both directions, stretching into the dark, each one identical. Each one idling with headlights dim, windshields shattered or bloodied. I passed them one by one, and in every driver's seat, a version of me, some burned, some bloated with rot, some smiling wide with empty sockets where eyes should be. Every version was worse than the last, until I saw the final truck in line, parked across the road like a barricade. It was my truck. Same plates, same air freshener hanging off the mirror, and behind the wheel, not me, not her, someone else, a man with no face, just smooth skin pulled tight over his skull. He raised one hand, pointed down the road, and the lights died. I drove in total darkness for what felt like hours. The only sensation was motion, and the feeling of something crawling up from beneath the cab. I kept my feet off the floor. Couldn't risk contact. Then, in the distance, a light. Small at first. Then brighter. A fire? A house? No. A rest stop. The only one I'd seen since this nightmare began. It looked brand new. Gleaming walls, pristine pumps, warm amber lighting. I pulled in, parked, got out. The air smelled clean for the first time in forever. Inside, it was empty. No clerk, no other drivers. Just a payphone bolted to the wall and a vending machine humming in the corner. I picked up the phone. It was already ringing. I held it to my ear. A voice spoke, low and distant. "You've reached dispatch." "Time to check in," I whispered. "Where am I?" The voice chuckled. "You're home." And then the payphone melted in my hand. I turned around and saw something written on the glass door in blood. "You are the road now." I ran back to the truck, started the engine, but when I looked in the rearview mirror this time, I didn't see myself. I saw you. Reading this, listening to this, following the same route I did, and I smiled, because I know now, you're next. After I left that glowing rest stop, if it even existed, I drove blind into the night again. I didn't recognize the sky anymore. No stars, no moon. Just a heavy black dome overhead like someone had painted over the universe and left me stranded in the margins. At mile 73, I saw headlights, coming toward me. Fast. I flashed mine, honked, Nothing. The other truck kept coming, full speed. Center of the lane like it wanted to hit me. I jerked the wheel hard, tires shrieking. The rig skidded off the road into gravel, into mud, but there was no impact. When I looked behind me, no truck, not even tail lights disappearing into the distance. Just silence again. And then, a town. It shouldn't have been there, but it was. Single glowing sign said, "Welcome to Ashbrook, population." I slowed down. Didn't remember seeing it on any map. The town looked frozen in time, 1950s buildings. Gas prices at 20 cents, faded billboards showing families smiling with empty eyes. I rolled slowly through the main street. No people, no movement, but every door was slightly open, like they were expecting me. The CB crackled, first time it had made a sound in hours. I grabbed the mic. "This is Ray. Anyone out there?" Silence, then a voice. "Don't get out of the truck." Male, stern, almost familiar. I asked, "Who is this?" No reply, just static. Then the same voice again, lower this time. "You get out, you'll never leave." I drove on. Tried not to look at the mannequins in the windows, except they weren't mannequins. They blinked. One waved. One held a cardboard sign that read, "Keep driving, Ray. We'll catch up." I passed a diner. Dottie's again. There. Same one from earlier, same glowing sign, same stool visible through the window, except this time someone was sitting in my spot. He turned slowly to look at me. It was me, older, eyes red, skin cracked. His hands were covered in black sludge and his mouth was moving, mouthing the words, "Turn back." But my hands were locked to the wheel. I drove on, mile 82. The road narrowed, a tunnel ahead. Stone walls carved like ribs curved around the rig as I entered. My headlights flickered. Then the CB came to life again, whispering, "Cargo manifest updated." That's when I noticed it. My trailer was heavier now, way heavier. I hadn't picked up a thing. I pulled over, walked around to the back. The lock was gone. The doors were open. Inside, rows and rows of body bags, perfectly lined, perfectly still. Then one moved. Just a twitch, then another, and another. I slammed the doors shut, heart hammering. But as I turned back to the cab, I saw a note taped to the driver's side door. One word. "Return." I didn't. I drove on. The odometer now flickered between numbers and words. Sometimes it said 0094. Sometimes it said "She's close." Mile 100, the girl was back, sitting in the middle of the road, head bowed, arms resting on her knees. As I approached, I hit the brakes, hard, skidded to a stop. She didn't move, didn't flinch, just slowly looked up at me. Blood seeped from her eyes. She mouthed, "Your turn." The truck shut off. Dead, no power, no lights, just her. She stood, came around to my door, knocked twice. I couldn't move, not out of fear, but something stronger, something like gravity. She climbed into the cab, sat next to me, stared out the windshield. "You know what you did," she whispered. "You left me in the storm." A flash, a memory I hadn't let myself remember. A back road, rain, a girl in the ditch. I had passed her by long ago, no cell signal, no time to stop. She'd screamed for help, I'd driven away. She died. Now she rides with me. Mile 101. The CB whispered again. All drivers must deliver. And I knew then, I wasn't hauling freight anymore. I was delivering souls, ghosts, regrets, my own, sins, sealed up tight in a trailer that would never empty. The road ahead, endless. It loops, it winds, it devours. I keep seeing the same signs, the same forest, the same towns. Sometimes I pass myself. Sometimes I see you. In another rig. Reading this story. Living it. Feeling that gnawing dread that one day you'll blink and be behind the wheel too, driving through a night that never ends. And when that happens, don't stop. Don't talk to her. Don't open the trailer, and whatever you do, don't look in the mirror. By the time I reached mile 112, the forest was whispering again. Branches scraped the side of the trailer like fingernails. Shadows moved too fluidly, like they weren't part of the trees, but something living beneath them. The road narrowed, so thin I swore it wasn't made for trucks at all. And then, just past a bend with no warning, I was in a town, no name, no people, but it looked exactly like where I grew up. Same gas station, same little diner with the rusted roof, same busted payphone on the corner that never worked, even when I was a kid. I parked in front of the old house on Maple Street, my childhood home. It was dark inside, curtains drawn, but I saw movement behind the glass, and then the porch light turned on by itself. Something in me said to walk away. Get back in the truck, drive. But I walked up the porch steps. They groaned under my weight, just like they used. The door was unlocked. Inside it smelled like old wood and sour memories. Same wallpaper, same water stains, same couch where my dad used to pass out after drinking. Then I saw it. My father, sitting in the armchair, except he'd been dead for 15 years. He looked up at me with hollow, fogged-over eyes. You should have come back, Ray, he rasped. You left your mother to die alone. I stumbled backward. My boots stuck to the floor. Something thick and wet held me. Blood. It spread out from under the chair across the living room. Then I heard sobbing. From the hallway. I turned. There she was. My mother. Thin. Pale. Staring through me. Her mouth opened, wide in a scream that made no sound. And behind her dozens of shadow people. Every one of them familiar. People I'd forgotten. Ignored. Abandoned. All the ones I left behind when I chased miles instead of memories. I ran. Back to the truck. But when I got in, the trailer was gone. No cargo. No hitch. Just me in the cab. And in the passenger seat, my reflection. Not in the mirror. Sitting there. Smiling. Eyes black. You've made your deliveries, Ray, it said. Now it's time to pick up your load. Suddenly I was somewhere else. The road was red beneath me, not painted. Stained. Veins ran through it like meat. Mile marker. Honda 31 stood broken on the shoulder. The sign read, Last stop. Exit guilt. The CB crackled again. This time it was her voice. The girl I left in the storm. You don't remember what I asked you before I died. I gripped the mic with shaking hands. What? I asked if you'd stop for me if it was someone you knew. My stomach dropped. Because back then, I didn't stop because I didn't recognize her. Didn't care. Now, I see her face every night. I dream it's my sister's. My daughter's my own. The radio screamed static, then silence. Ahead I saw the bridge. Steel. Rusted. Lit by fire instead of bulbs. As I crossed it, I felt the truck grow heavy again. The trailer was back, hitched without a sound. Inside it groaned with weight. I didn't look. I knew. These weren't souls now. They were memories. All the lives I'd touched and ruined by omission, by negligence, by selfishness. All the things a lonely driver can convince himself don't matter when he's chasing white lines. The road on the other side of the bridge disappeared, replaced by nothing. Just void, endless black. The sky, the ground, everything, gone. I floated, still behind the wheel, still moving. But the truck no longer rolled, it just existed. No direction, no time. And then, another truck beside me. Same model, same rig, same driver, me. This version of me was smiling, eyes stitched shut. He leaned out the window and shouted, Ain't no highway but the one in your head, Ray. Drive fast, regret. Slow. Then he swerved away and vanished into smoke. Suddenly, tires again. Pavement. Reality stitched itself back around me like a poorly sewn suit, and I was in front of another rest stop. But this one wasn't glowing. This one was rotting. The sign flickered. "Rest here, Ray, it's over." I pulled in, and I saw it. The last door. A metal one at the back of the building. No windows, no sign. But I knew. It was the end. I stepped out. My boots hit the pavement, now wet with blood again. The smell hit me like burned tires and flesh. Reached for the handle, turned it, and opened the door, only to see the inside of my truck, the exact cab. Only this one was on fire. Inside, strapped to the seat, was me, screaming, burning. And as the flames consumed him, the other version of me turned and looked at me one last time and mouthed the words, "This has always been your route." I ran back to the rig, started it, tore away, from the rest stop like it was the last place on earth, and maybe it was, 'cause now there are no mile markers, no signs, no curves, just straight road, and I don't need sleep anymore. The fuel never runs out. The CB only says one thing now, over and over again. Drive, deliver, pay. And if you're hearing this, if you're reading this, if you've ever been behind the wheel late at night on a lonely road where the air feels wrong and the shadows lean a little too far, be careful. Because one day, you might just see me, waving, smiling, and pointing down that same black highway where I'm still driving, forever. I don't know how long I've been driving now. Could be days, could be years. The clock stopped working, and so did time. Every now and then, I see other trucks. They blink in and out of existence. Some look burned. Some are dripping with something darker than oil. They're drivers. Some don't have faces anymore. Others look like me. But none of them stop. They just keep rolling. Each of us locked in our own ghost hall, carrying regrets that never lighten. Until last night. Last night I saw an exit ramp. No sign. No lights. Just there, like a memory returning after being buried for too long. I don't remember turning the wheel, but I must have, because now I'm here. It's not a town, not a stop, not even a place, really. Just a circle of trucks, all parked in a ring, their headlights beaming inward, lighting up the center like a stage. And on that stage, a man tied to a chair, bloody, barely breathing, and behind him, a figure, tall, wearing the face of a dispatcher I once knew, except it was stretched too tight over something that wasn't human. He pointed at me. "Your turn, Ray." The others nodded. They knew. We all get a turn. To decide, to choose. It's the only way out. See, the road doesn't let you go until you give it something in return. A life, a soul, a trade. And this time, the man in the chair, he wasn't a stranger. He was me. A version of me from before the road took everything. Smiling, hopeful, still full of dreams, still whole. I heard the whisper of the girl again. The one I left behind in the storm. Save yourself, or save who you were. I stepped forward. The figure behind the chair handed me a knife. The handle was ice cold. Everyone watched. The trucks rumbled low like they were chanting beneath their steel husks. Choose, choose, choose. I stood behind the man in the chair, behind myself, and I remembered how good it felt before guilt, before death, before this endless stretch of haunted asphalt. I raised the knife, and I didn't do it. I dropped the blade. "Take me," I said. Let him go. The ring of headlights flared bright. The sound of engines roared so loud I thought my skull would split. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was back. The sun was rising. Real sun. Warm. I was parked at a normal rest stop, off I-40. Other truckers milled around. Birds chirped. I smelled coffee. I walked to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. It was older, lined, weathered, but alive. I asked a guy what day it was. He looked at me funny. Same as yesterday, man. April 23rd. Same day I disappeared, 5 years ago. I tried to tell someone what happened. No, one believed me. Not at first, but then I looked in the mirror of my rig. Just once, and behind me in the reflection, she was there. The girl. Smiling. Still with me. Still watching. Still waiting. Because maybe I didn't escape. Maybe I just started the next loop. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and be back on that highway, with no time, no fuel, no name. So if you ever see me out there, if I flash my lights at you from the other lane, if I wave at you from the next rest stop, eyes hollow, face cracked, don't stop, don't honk back, don't look at me too long, because that's how it starts. And once the highway knows your name, you're already behind the wheel. The highway never truly lets go. It waits, sleeps beneath the roads we trust. It breathes beneath the concrete, and sometimes it calls us back. But for me, I was done. I thought I was. After I handed the wheel to Caleb, the road vanished behind me like smoke. I found myself in a place I didn't recognize, not because it was unfamiliar, but because it was real. For the first time in what felt like lifetimes, I could smell rain, feel warmth, hear birds instead of distant tires and screaming engines. The world had moved on without me. Years, maybe decades had passed. No one remembered the name Ray Dunlow. No one except the road. I settled into a small town in Oregon. Off the map. Quiet. No highways for miles. I found peace in little things. Stacking wood. Cooking my own meals. Sleeping without hearing static or someone whispering my name through a CB speaker. It was good. Too good. Because deep down, I knew it couldn't last, and one day, I heard a knock on my door. Not on the wood. On glass. The mirror. And there, behind the reflection, was me. The version of me that never made it out. Burned. Hollow-eyed. Wearing a driver's cap soaked in blood. He didn't speak. He just pointed. Behind him was the highway. I could have run. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped toward the mirror. And instead of pulling me through, it opened like a window. And I saw them. The others. All the drivers. All the haunted souls still stuck out there. Some of them I knew. Some I'd left behind. Some I'd trained. Some were just me, again and again and again, in every possible way I could have broken. Then I saw Caleb. Older. Tired. Driving. Alone. So I made a choice. One last drive. Not because the road needed me, but because they did. I climbed into the reflection, into a cab that had been waiting for me all along. It didn't burn. It didn't scream. It just welcomed me. I was whole again. And this time, I didn't drive to run. I drove to rescue. I traveled the haunted lanes with a new purpose. I pulled over for lost souls, picked them up, told them the rules, helped them steer. And when they were ready, I let them out, freed them, one by one. Some nights I'd see old faces flash in my mirrors, nodding, smiling, moving on. And every soul I delivered brought me closer to something I never expected. Redemption. There was no final battle, no fire, no scream. Just one last way station, and the dispatcher was waiting. A figure made of headlights and asphalt. It looked at me. No words. Just a hand held out. And in it, a key. Silver. Smooth. It read, "Exit." I took it. Turned it in the ignition. The truck shuddered. The me world blinked, and suddenly, I was parked on the side of a real highway. Morning sun rising, birdsong in the air, cars passing. No shadows, no whispers, no ghosts. Just life. Real life. And now I live here. Quiet. Watching the highway. Helping where I can. Sometimes, I see a driver pull over late at night, confused, shaking, scared. I give them coffee, point them back in the right direction, and I tell them, drive safe, watch your mirrors, and never stop for anyone holding a traffic cone in the rain. They always laugh, but I don't, because I remember. And if I've done anything right in this long, cursed existence, it's this. I broke the loop. I made it out. And now I help others do the same. So if you're out there, on the road, and the lights flicker, and the signs make no sense, and you hear your name on a channel no one uses, just remember, the highway wants you, but it doesn't get to keep you. Not if you drive smart, not if you don't stop, not if you keep going until the dawn breaks. Because no matter how cursed the night is, there's always one more mile, one last turn, and maybe, just maybe, a way home.